And this is Scrap Mechanic. So just a looks pretty on the green. So the guy on the screen is your main character, or modified character. You can give him all sorts of different. I can make him look all rugged, but under that hat, you know, kind of. Let's take the hat off. You know, so now he just looks weird. Can I get around him here? No, can't show off the back of his head. Unfortunate. Blah, blah, blah. Tripping over my tongue. Anyway, let's put the hat on him. Normally, when you start a new game, you're looking all disheveled, like with the, because you had survived a plane crash. Basically, that's what you look like when you first log in or start a new game until you unlock outfits and things. Those are the golf shorts. I'm like, what the hell are those things? All right. Anyway, what was my guy wearing? He's wearing those. All right. Hey, sorry. Sidetrack. Tangent. Yay. Um. So, anywho, this is Scrap Mechanic. This is the character editor in Scrap Mechanic. Let's actually get into Scrap Mechanic. And I have 3 worlds, and you have 3 different options here. Survival is the latest, and these are my 3 games. The Zimbabwe Kun is the first game, as evidenced by the exorbitant playtime. It's not quite as bad as my Fallout playtime, but it's getting about. I almost said it's getting close. It's nowhere near close. Anyway, so it takes a few seconds to load because it's basically just a survival. Think of it like Minecraft meets Fantastic Contraption, if you remember that. But come on, little friend, you can do it. You can load. There we go. So, what are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at things loading. And off in the distance is one of the landmarks that you usually go after is the warehouses. They're basically raids. And then in the foreground here, I have 3 switches. One's a light switch that's not connected to anything. And the other 2, we'll get to that in a minute. But if I back up, these are your bread and butter. This is my crafting station. Now, each one of these guys is called a craft bot. And this is where you come to basically make all of your blocks in the game. Now, the blocks are... In Minecraft, you can manipulate the world 1 cubic meter at a time. This you can not manipulate the world per se, but you can create things 1 cubic foot at a time. So yeah, that's kind of the breakdown, but let's get out of here for a minute. We'll handle crafting a bit, and of course it decides it wants to go dark on me. And I don't... Okay, so like I said, this is the light switch. It's not connected to anything, so because I don't have any lights yet. This is a fairly new thing, but a couple of things here. I am by the shore, so I have access to water, so I can pump water up into my crafting system and use water in it. Also, oh, that wasn't cool. I am by chemical. This is a chemical pond, and you use chemical for various things, including concrete. And I have a little pump down there so I can pump chemical into my crafting system, which goes into this chest here. This is chemical, and yes, I have oil in here too. Don't mind that. But if we were to make a block of concrete, we need water and chemical and stone. And to get stone, I have that bastard right there. I need to modify it because having... Well, we'll get down there and check it out. And I may ragdoll at the bottom here. Yep. You're okay, buddy. It's a fast elevator. You'll be fine. So, this is the mining rig that we would use to collect metal, stone, and wood. Because just having a harvesting vehicle is a good thing to have. Tripping over my words here. But a dedicated harvesting vehicle is better than having a all-purpose vehicle that just happens to be able to mine. And these refineries on the back turn it into a refinery vehicle. So basically, when you go mining, you break down a large rock, which we can go visit in the daylight here. What time is it? 8 freaking 10 o'clock. So it's going to be a little bit. I need to kill some time. So let's go visit the farm because I know that's lit up. And we'll take the truck. And one of the things, just to save on frame rate, you'll notice that all these vehicles have this little block here. What's that for? Well, we weld these free-floating creations to the larger creation just to save on frames. So how that works is if I need to use the truck, I come up to this particular block, and this is just a color choice really. I'll put this back on the post here so I know where to weld it to. But now the platform that I'm standing on and the truck are two separate entities. Now the game will do different calculations for both, as opposed to them being welded together and only doing one set of calculations for both. So we'll jump in the driver's seat, flip on our lights, and we have just exterior lights in the front, and I also have a set of cargo lights with a bright light in the back for trailer light. And this one also has the ability for liftgate. And that may seem arbitrary at first, but there are certain things that you can't weld to creations that you need to just kind of keep free floating. And the only way to manipulate them is to hit them with hammers, get them rolling, and roll them up the ramp. But let's head over to the farm. Da-da-da. I'm kind of hung up on my other vehicle here a little bit, but that's okay. Impacts don't generate damage. Unless I run into a haybot here and just run him over, because haybots are the worst. So, it is survival mode. In the lower left-hand corner, you'll notice that I have a health bar, a food bar, and a water bar. Or a thirst bar, rather. So those are things you have to manage. Also, there are enemies. There are robots in the world. I'm not quite sure of all the lore, what explains why there's robots in the world that are trying to kill you. But there are haybots and totebots. And haybots are these orange dudes with red eyes and a pitchfork. And totebots, which are little squiddy dudes. Little green squiddy dudes. Let's see here. So this is the farm. And one of the things that you have to do in the game is farm up fruits and veggies, package them up, and sell them for different things. Now on the right, trying to get attention, are my cookbots. But we won't worry about them for a second. So this whole system is just to water the farm plots here. And I'm just going to grab a bag of tomato seeds. Let's just do 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So right now, these will not grow in the soil without being watered. Well, I have this apparatus set up so that I can just set and forget and water. But the controls for them are sitting up here, and there's a logic gate there. That logic gate is an AND. So if this is on, it'll take the input from this and the input from, there's a sensor right there, that guy right there. So I'll take the input from the sensor and the input from the switch and say, okay, I'm good to fire all these cannons at one time. So to time out the cannons, I have these little notches here. Okay. I'm just going to turn that off for now. So this switch activates those two pistons, and it just casually goes along. Now that's all well and good, and I could do that manually like that. And honestly, I do just usually do it manually. But if I pull out my connection tool, you can see all the spaghetti. All the spaghetti of things being wired up. Now these green lines are going to the water containers. They're out in the pond over there. And they're connected up to the water cannons. It makes no sense. That's fine. If it made sense, you'd have to have the water containers on here connected via vacuum tubes to all these guys. It doesn't make sense. It's fine. What makes sense in this case is you have to have the water cannons connected to a water source, which are the water containers in that pond. We'll go take a look at them in a second. So since these are all connected, you'll notice that I have these guys here. These 3 lines connect that chair over there to these switches, as well as to that top switch there, and we'll get to that in a second. But if I pop into the chair here, now it's like the driver's seat on the other one. I can then, number 1, turns on that first switch there, if you can see it. You take a look at where that logic gate is on the kind of upper middle left. I can toggle that switch over there from my seat here. And I have a full view of the farm plots as well. So if I hit 1, now it will go through and water each time that sensor sees one of those notches in the line. Now if I had all these filled up, it would start a timer saying unauthorized farming. And I would get attacked by waves of hay bots at midnight. To defend against that, remember that fourth line to that switch on the wall over there? If I hit number 4 on here, it activates my crusher. And this is just easy mode farming. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to run around and kill things. Things just die. It's great. So, let's turn off the lights here. And now that it's daylight, freaking thing, jump back in the truck and we'll head back to the base here. Well, actually, so the water, this is where the water's coming from. There are water containers underneath this concrete slab, and this is the highest tier of concrete, the most durable and heaviest. But each one of these water containers has an indicator light on it saying that it's, 4/5 full. In each fifth, it takes 20 water. It gets the water from the pond and these vacuum pumps, which are not on right now, but I can turn them on from inside the building. Now, this is all connected through just this line here, and if I were to cut this, then the water cans would lose access to those. So because this is attached with this guy here, it's all one entity, all one creation. It's kind of how it gets around its calculation stuff. So we're gonna head back to my base here, which you can't see right now. Direct your eyes where that little beacon is, that teal beacon. You can't see my base because it hasn't loaded in. If you get far enough away, it won't load. So the great thing about having the farm away from the base is you don't have that extra calculation of the two in the same tile, the same chunk. So as I get close, we're going to hit a spike of lag right there, and my base pops in. Doesn't all pop in at once, and we'll cover that in a second. Why it doesn't all pop in at once is because I separated it into different chunks so that it works better with the lag. I mean, my machine's not terrible, but it's not a spring chicken. It's one of those things of, it's old. So, I have my flatbed truck, and you'll notice I have a little bit of lag right now, and that's because there's some hefty calculation going on right now because of all this stuff in one spot. But like I said earlier, if I were to weld this to the platform, it's going to ease up my frame rate a little bit. So we're going to get this guy right on there. I just want it on the end of that hazard block, and that freed up my frame rate a bit because it's not calculating this guy on this platform. And to free up calculations, I have separated this platform from that platform. So this is a separate platform from this. The elevator is a separate platform from the one we're standing on. And this is a separate platform from the elevator, but it is attached to my craftbot platform. And they're all connected together through that vacuum tube and all the plumbing back here, so that everything I have available in the chest up there is available here. Remember before? I have water and chemical from this guy, and I'm only getting chemical from that vacuum tube on the other side there. So, we were going to, excuse me a second. We were going, oh, sorry, I was going to, no, let's put this on. No. Let's put that guy right there. So, I was going to take this guy out and show off the mining. So this is a big bastard. Now this one isn't as fast as my flatbed truck, because if I turned up the speed on this engine, my rear wheel steering would just flop. Because if it's under power, it's not going to do so well. And that's mostly because I have these two refineries on here. These refineries are heavy. Super heavy. But the reason I have them is so that I can just stay mining all the time. Now, a bunch of different switches here. Let's demonstrate what those are before we get started. So one is just lights, just so I can see what I'm doing at night. 2 turns on the drills. And then 4 and 5 just change my angle of attack. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, 4 and 5 just change my angle of attack a little bit. And that's to help with doing the tree trimming, because those saw blades are all just for wood. So 5 only rotates us 15 degrees, 4 rotates at 30 degrees, so it's an overall angle of 45. But 3 tilts my drills down, and they're on pistons. And you'll notice that there's suspension pieces on the drills, as well as the pistons. So if I hit 4 and 5 at the same time, see the pistons compress a little bit. The pistons act as suspension as well as the suspension. So this allows the drills to bounce around and contour to the hill that these rocks are on. And these rocks are where you get your stone and your metal bar. So I'm going to flip these on. And we're just going to casually just roll into this and it will break apart. Come on, you can do it. See, that's not a good demonstration. You're not cooperating. So we'll change the angle of attack on this. Take the 15 degrees off of it. There we are. And that's normally what happens, is it normally goes pretty quick. So now you can't break the big stones with your hammer, but you can break these guys that come off there. So you need drills to get it broken down to the point where you can use your sledgehammer, but if you have something like this, you just sweep across the ground and break down the rocks. Once I have this to, let's say about right there. Okay. And I sent some stuff flying, and now they're on my drills here. So what we're after with these is we need to break this down to the point of that. That's what we're after. If I pick that up, it should go into the resource collector just behind this wall. And of course, if I just want to get this off the hinge apparatus, and you'll see that metal bar just got shunted off into the resource collector, and then it gets sucked into the refinery right away. If I didn't have both the refineries on here, those resource collectors will get full really quickly, and then I'd be waiting for the resource collectors to get freed up. But thinking it might be more efficient overall to get rid of one of the refineries and just have another like 1 or 2 resource collectors on this, so that I can get through a couple of these resource nodes before having to wait for the refinery to catch up. Because right now, yes, the throughput's great, but the vehicle is so heavy that it doesn't quite perform the way I'd like it to. You know, I'd like the engine to be a little bit more powerful, which I could turn it up, but if I did, the back bearings would flop, and I already have a cross member across the two, just so that they cooperate a little bit. Well, you'll notice they are cambered a bit, so that's not normal. We'll get that cleaned up. And anything on the ground is going to force the game to calculate. So the more rocks that you pop off that resource node, the more the game's going to need to calculate them. You know, get to the point where, like, all the bearings and all the pistons will just flop around because there's too much to calculate. You know, it's the nature of the game and kind of what you learn. But anyway, that's the gist of the mining vehicle. Now I have the flatbed truck, and then I have these other two. This one on the left here, it's actually really fun. It's a fuel-less vehicle. It's not as fast as the truck, because not using fuel, you're not going to be quite as fast, and this thing even turns like a combine. It's awesome. Anyway, we'll get this welded up, and we'll switch gears. But I think we're going to call it right there for now, and be back in a couple of seconds. Okay, and we're back. Now, what I did off camera is I welded this guy back on here. You'll have to forgive me. It's okay. And not all of my base is loaded yet. Wait for it. There it is. All right. Yeah, I had to shut down the game there for a second. So, the fuel-less vehicle. Now, I do have these battery containers on here. Let's just go ahead and take them off. Oh no, I'm dying. I'm dying of thirst. Whatever shall I do? I need a veggie burger. Now, what this is gonna do is it's gonna... Oop, look at that. All good again. Alright. I'm just going to take these battery boxes off there so no one thinks I'm cheating. So this vehicle is controlled, or is powered, entirely by the controllers. And there's one right there. Now this is set to 10 bearings, all 360 degrees in a loop. If I liberate this from the platform, take my lift, stick it up on the lift, one of the things you'll notice is some interesting geometry in the steering. Now again, this is just for some consistency with the steering, so that I really only need to have the driver's seat steering. Well, those are even on the wrong ones. It's neither here nor there. Anyway, this is so that these two wheels share a common rail here, and it kind of, I wouldn't say it makes this geometry compact, because it's not. I mean, it's like 8 wide, but this, here are the two controllers on the 10 bearings on each side, or the 5 bearings on each side. So we'll take this off the lift, and this is not as easy to control because the controllers are not as responsive as the gas engines. There's a little bit of an input lag with them. But when you're first starting out and you don't have much for fuel, and in the past fuel was much harder to get because you had to go swimming for it, this was a nice alternative. Now this isn't as fast as my flatbed truck, but this thing has seen me through quite a bit. And it's ridiculous because of how long it is. If I let off the gas, I can kind of drift and make tighter turns. But let's go after this haybot here because he's a little bastard and he's dead. Kind of shorten my turning radius by drifting a little bit. And you notice there's a bed on the back. The bed works as your spawn point. Now that's supposed to change. You're only supposed to get like... Eventually the beds will be limited use. As far as respawns are concerned. But in the early days of Scrap Mechanic here, it's very much it's kind of Wild West with the beds right now. It's kind of nice. You can die and respawn in the bed. Now I'm just gonna put this block back here. And weld this back on. I kind of gotta get out of the way. Oh no. Why are you not? There we go. Because I was standing in the way. That's why. Alright. Now, this little bearing here looks like it's exposed, but it's actually tied onto this guy because this wedge piece acts like a block that's whatever dimensions it is. It's, what, 4 by 8, essentially? It acts like a 4 by 8 block. So that bearing is attached to that guy there. So this little buggy is, well, since I'm welded on, sorry about the mic there. Since I'm welded on, it's not quite performing the same way. This one used to have a bed. The bed got destroyed. But this one has adjustable suspension via pistons and suspension pieces. However, I have not gotten my head around how to keep this thing from just wheeling everywhere. I kind of have this little length on the back that's supposed to act as kind of a wheelie bar, but it doesn't. It's just a... Now this back piece just looks like it's floating there. It's not so much. It's built into the frame. Now what I might do is I just might shorten up the wheelbase on this quite a bit more. Take out the passenger seat and put the fuel tank in the passenger seat area. We'll see. It's not as reliable as my big truck. And that's why I take the big truck everywhere, is because then I have the storage. I have a food storage inside here. I have just miscellaneous storage. I can take fruits and veggies to the packaging stations and get them packaged. I even have a TNT trunk in the floor here and a bed. Now this little apparatus, this logic apparatus, is a timer. If I hit the switch, timer goes and just times in the loop. Now what that does is it activates this vacuum pump to fire veggies into the packing station packer. That all sounds odd, I know, but eventually we'll get to that. Now I need to turn off my lights in this thing. So my cargo lights, this just reminded me of the old 1-ton. And I had the cargo lights I had the cargo lamp on the pillar behind the driver. I was just like, I wanted that. So this is the fuel tank, and I used 5 there, but yeah. It's all just, it's a bit too much. One of my things maybe later is I may go after a warehouse, so keep an eye on that. But just yeah, that's my base in Scrap Mechanic. That's not everything. I mean, you'd have to. There's quite a bit to learn if you were to jump into it, but that's. I just want to show off my base, damn it! All right.